Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest AI, cancer, and health equity, making technology work for the patients left behind. No other than Mr. Eugene or Dr. Eugene Manley.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here, Daniel, and to talk more about the work that I do.
Yes, and thank you for being part on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yes, I am Dr. Eugene Manley Jr., and I'm the founder of the nonprofit called the Sheck Foundation for STEM and Cancer Health Equity. And broadly, we work to increase STEM workforce diversity and provide information and resources to help underserved patients understand medical care and navigate the cancer care continuum.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Eugene. Thank you. And today, let's talk about when the algorithm meets the exam room. What it's all about, Mr. Dr. Eugene.
So, we talk a lot about AI in healthcare, and in one instance, if we just explain what AI is, AI at a root level is using data that's already out there to predict how groups will behave, act, or respond, and then you can use this to make predictions about how future things will behave. And this shows up in many instances in healthcare. It shows up in police lineups. It shows up in screening. It shows up in credit scores. And so it's just a question of how it's applied in a healthcare setting. And in healthcare settings, it can be used. Often, it's thought to be in a neutral or helpful fashion, but often the people that design the algorithms don't think about who is included or not included, and this then impacts the applicability of these things at different times.
In a different time. So, Dr. Eugene, let's start with the tension. AI promises a revolution in cancer and diagnostic and treatment. From your research, what is the most concrete hope it offers patients today, and what is the most dangerous illusion?
The most concrete hope is that we can better detect diseases earlier, we can get patients screened earlier, we can get them treated earlier. And there actually is an AI algorithm called Sybil that UIC, Harvard, MGH, and a couple other institutions have used to look at low dose CT scans or chest scans, and it can predict lung cancer risk up to 5 years in the future. And this data was based on screening that was done as part of the National Lung Cancer Screening Trial. And this stuff was then validated in the UIC, which is U of Illinois Cancer Center in Chicago, which has a very diverse patient population. And it was able to sort of predict lung cancer risk on a scan up to 4 years later. And then in a South Korean data set, they also were able to show up to at least 4 years and maybe even 5 years, they could predict lung cancer risk based on a scan. So that's where we would love all of the work to be. That is a great example of AI working for people, but often the worst case scenario is something is created and it doesn't take into account the populations that are not in the data sets or in the study sets. And so you could have things like, let's take a look at some of these cardiovascular testing, and they want to look at uh, blood flow through the skin. But if the device and algorithm was designed on the majority population, which is white, then you don't know if it's going to capture the correct blood flow in black skin. And so then you have a lot of people that are missed and excluded. And then you have a results, and then the people that are actually the most disparate group are not able to benefit from an advancement.
Well, interesting. Dr. Rugin, the term patients left behind is powerful. Who are they specifically? Are they defined by geography, income, race, age, or tumor type, or combination of those factors?
This is an interesting question. And at its root, all of these groups are represented and excluded. So it could be race, it can be ethnicity, which is often what we think about in the US, but it's also rural populations are under included. You know, Asian populations, specifically Asian females, are underrepresented in lung cancer. And for some reason, Asian females have high lung cancer rates with no history of smoking, and we still don't know why. So it is not just race ethnicity. There are many factors at play.
Dr. Gurjin, tell us, in system already strained by inequity, could the introduction of advanced AI actually widen the cancer care gap rather than close it? How does that happen?
That is a major concern. And the way that the gaps can be widened is, let's give you an example. Let's say someone wants to say they have an algorithm, which there's data that shows this, that wants to look at breast cancer mammography and use it as a prediction of who has breast cancer. And so you have
Yes.
this great data and say, oh, we have these predictive models. And then you look at the data set and there are no black women in this data set. And we know that there's much higher breast cancer rates in black women. And so if you ask, well, where is it going to be validated in this other group? And if you say, no, we just have this is our data set and it's just white women, then good luck, because then it's not a predictive set at all, because you don't even have the patients that have some of the highest rates and incidents. And so this is where many times patients are left behind. In lung cancer, we have made a lot of advancements in screening, diagnosis, and treatment, but unfortunately, many patients still aren't offered clinical trials. They aren't offered biomarker testing, and even worse, they aren't offered comprehensive next gen sequencing, which allows you to see the broader suite of biomarkers that might make them eligible for different therapies.
So, Dr. Eugene, how about AI is only as good as a training data? If it's the most genomic and imaging data comes from a certain demographic groups, how does that bake in a bias that are the life or death consequences for a patient from underrepresented group?
That has always been the challenge when implementing and using these algorithms. So, it's like with the National Lung Cancer Screening Trial data, Sybil just happens to work really, really well. And that's what you call a really great case of AI luckily working. But often this is the exception more than the norm. And so, how do we have to think about including these people in the data sets early. But that means you also need to think about, when you're designing a device or instrumentation, who is it tested on? Who is in the design room? What kind of feedback? Did you talk to the community members that have the incidence of the disease? Have you done your due diligence on the groups that are most impacted? And often it's a rush to, we got something out, we can make money on it, and then later, oh, it doesn't work on this population, which doesn't help.
Yes, it doesn't help people. Beyond just race or gender, what are the crucial data is often missing for these models? How does at least create a digital ghost of a real patient?
Depends, like I said, it's all, social determinants of health are often excluded, income, insurance status, which might be more applicable in the US, uh, you know, language, specifically if you're an immigrant and you may not even be able to talk to people or communicate to get the care that you actually need. So these are additional factors that can contribute to things actually driving disparities.
Dr. Eugene, When AI tool recommends a treatment plan, where does the clinician's expertise and the patient's own values fit in? How do we guard against click through medicine? Where are the algorithms' suggestion or become the default?
It's interesting that you just asked that because I was just at a meeting and a doctor mentioned that they have a lot of expertise, and 9 times out of 10 they can see a patient and come up with a therapy, and they will sometimes put it in AI just to see what recommendation it makes. And most of the time, it makes the same recommendation of the doctor. I'm not saying it's replacing the doctor, but it's good to see at least there's enough therapies out there that if you put in, the biomarker, the uh, blood work, the genomics, you can generally come up with a course of treatment. And then if not, you still have what we call tumor boards where you bring different specialties together to look at a patient's case, and then they will collectively decide a course of action. It's usually the tumor board that decides the patient treatment as opposed to an AI.
So, Dr. Eugene, do you think that AI will replace doctors sooner or later?
No, AI cannot replace humans. While AI can, look at massive data sets and pull out trends and variances, nothing can replace the interaction of a human, like a patient with their doctor. Especially if you have a good doctor that's empathetic, that can't be replicated by AI.
Indeed, AI is only a tool to enhance our talents, don't you think?
Yes, as you stated, AI is only a tool that we can use to supplement or augment work, but it should not be used as the primary driver of any work because then you get in trouble with that.
Yes. For a community hospital without a dedicated AI specialist, what does implementation of those tools actually look like? What are the risks of misuse or blind trust?
Well, the challenge is often the community sites probably don't even have that setup available, and often they don't even have the infrastructure to run the major clinical trials. So patients are suffering from just a lack of probably even awareness of the most current treatments, lack of empathy, and typically this is the difference between the community centers and the major medical centers. However, the flip side of that is the major medical centers often do not have diverse representation, and those underserved patients in the community center still may not feel seen, heard, or respected, or they may get people looking at them like they're less than important, and that happens a lot.
Mr. Eugene or Dr. Eugene, ethics, access, and the cost of innovation. These tools are expensive to build and license. How does this create a two-tiered system for cancer care or algorithm enhanced for some, standard protocol for others? Who decides who gets access?
I think this is a broader systems question, and this comes down to money and resources. And like as we just previously stated, major medical centers are flush with money. They have specifically NCI designated cancer centers. They have a lot of funds, so they can get the latest equipment, best equipment, and they have, and for in essence, bells and whistles that can get patients the best care depending on if the doctors still listen to the patients. As an example, in lung cancer, we have we know that lung cancer screening can save lives, but the majority of lung cancer screening sites are concentrated in the Northeast, the major cancer centers in California. So there's large swaths of the US that do not even have screening facilities, and there are regions like Utah, Idaho, even West Virginia that have high areas of smoking density, and they just do not have coverage of screening for all the patients that actually really need them. So this exacerbates disparities that way.
Mr. Eugene or Dr. Eugene, as advocating technology work for the patients left behind, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Short term goals is not even just in the terms of that, but just to make sure that patients understand how to navigate medical care and cancer care, how to ask for second opinions, how to read those biomarker testing, how to understand clinical trials, and empower them to take more control of their care than they often are given credit for being able to do. So we have to really make sure they have the education and tools to do it.
Educational and tools. And good luck to your goals, Dr. Eugene, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Ooh, for people that want to be, ooh, that's a
They
tough
want to be a
one.
Dr. Eugene like you.
Oh, I don't know. I took the road less traveled. You see, I grew up in Detroit inner city, and I was a first gen scholar, so nothing ever came easy to me. I grew up with chronic asthma and allergies, and I was in the hospital 20 to 30 times a year until I was 10, and so that sort of made me want to think about a career in medical research and helping people. And then I ended up doing engineering, and then but I was always torn between engineering and biology, and then that's how I ended up in biomedical engineering, and then I ended up back in cancer biology, and then I found real interest in lung, and that became a big area of research in my career along the way. And even as I went into the nonprofit space, I did lung cancer, I did fundraising and development. But I would say you really have to have a to be someone like me. I guess you have to have a real interest and zeal for science, real drive to overcome barriers and keep pushing forward, because it is not easy. And then as you progress, keep trying to network and meet people and try to and mentor, help, and empower and uplift others behind you.
Yes, indeed. And thank you for that advice, Dr. Eugene. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
The book most people think about is The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And this was a great book because she had the HeLa cells, and I think they were Johns Hopkins University, and this was the first immortalized cell line that could be perpetually grown over and over and over, and it has led to many discoveries in cancer and other therapeutics. However, they took her cells without her permission, and then they profited immensely over those cells over the years. And for the longest, they didn't give the family any credit or recognition, and that sort of has been rectified now. But it's a long history in the line of black women in this country being used for medical experimentation and exploited without informed consent or anything. So this is just a great book, and it really ties into the work I do in disparities and inequities.
Yes, and thank you for that recommended books, Mr. Eugene. And tell us, looking globally, how does we prevent the cancer AI divide from mirroring the digital divide between high income and low income nations?
Ooh, this is a tough question because the digital divide between high income and low income is the same divide you see in urban versus rural environments here. There's a lot of disenfranchisement and lack of in what's the word I'm looking for, investment in these underserved areas. And until there is broader global impetus or some kind of guidelines to say you must invest in these other countries so they have the same outcome, I think we will continue to have these digital barriers, and then people that still need help the most will still not get it, and so this will still lead to worse outcomes.
Yes, the worst outcome, I hope not, right? And Dr. Eugene, how can we design AI systems that are humble by design, built to flag their own uncertainties and defer to human judgment in complex individual cases?
I think this is a case of where you really have to holistically think about what is the problem you're trying to address, who are the populations affected across the board, and then make sure those populations are included in the design, analysis, and refinement. And then you have to test, retest, confirm, and then have people on those teams that are from these communities, whether they're researchers, testers, patients, caregivers, to make sure that you don't have blind spots. Because in essence, you have blind spots when you don't have representation across the board. And this is what drives all of the issues that we see today. So I think that's the way you do it. You build in that representation and you think about those groups that are that are excluded. So it's really, really a lot of due diligence.
For a patient from a marginalized community, could you distrust in the medical system based on historical and present harms become irrational, protective responses to instruction of AI?
So you want to know how a person from underserved population can be affected by AI. That was correct.
Yes, please.
Okay, so if you think about it, this is the best example is medical charting or medical decisions that are made by insurance companies, and patients can have a treatment recommended by a doctor, but now some companies have been using AI to just blanket do rejections, and then you have to appeal and then try to do a peer to peer to get it unrejected. And sometimes that still doesn't work. But I just recently learned that some states have a, I forgot the name of the committee, but it's another committee that you can appeal to if insurance has denied your claim on a medication. And then it goes to an independent reviewer to then make an assessment if the patient can get that treatment. I just literally saw this yesterday and I said, I had not heard of that. So that is a good way to get around it, but that's not a long term fix. This should be more baked into the system inherently from the beginning.
Yes, indeed. And Mr. Michael, before we wrap up our discussion for today, Dr. Eugene, my apologies. Dr. Eugene, sometimes, there's a lot of guests coming, so a mismatch.
You probably have 20 names in your head for everybody.
Mr. Michael is my previous guest, so now I have Dr.
Michael
Eugene.
Manley. Okay, I
Yeah.
understand.
Dr. Michael Eugene, why not? Right? Before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, Alma, book 101 review in sixth season now, comedy 101 in third season, my food 101 is sixth season as well. Geography 101 Love Letters, Movie 101 Review, Music 101 our fourth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in its second season, Emma Baby Podcast, Mental Health 101, Law 101, Bible Verses 101, and of course, Entrepreneurship 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Dr. Eugene, not Michael, people. Dr. Eugene. My apologies. Ultimately, to ensure no patient is left behind, what is the one non negotiable principle that must guide the integration of AI into the sacred space of the exam room?
The one thing that must never be given for forsaken is empathy and listening. It has to be there. Human communication is just you can't do without it.
Yes. Human. To be human is something else. And Mr. Eugene, Dr. Eugene, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
Yes, if you're trying to learn more about the work we're doing at SHEC, you can find our website, scheq.org. And specifically, if you're an organization that is that needs help with workshops, career development, and health equity strategies, then book time on our calendar, and that's in our services tab on the website.
Yes, equity, workforce, outcomes, what it's all about on your website, Dr. Eugene.
Thank you. Pleasure being on.
Yes, yes, indeed. So, can you explain more about this equity, workforce, and outcomes that
Yes,
you?
so these sort of are the tenets through which we operate. So equity means that everyone should be able to benefit from an advancement or treatment regardless of race, ethnicity, income, gender, religion, etc. So it's how do you ensure that the group that's disparate gets to the same outcome as the majority population? Workforce is where we talk about the importance of a diverse workforce, because if you have representatives from the workforce that look like the communities that have the highest incidence of disease, that means they're more likely to be seen, heard, and respected and get treatment that's guideline concorded. And then, of course, if we have the first two, then we are likely to have patients that have better outcomes because they have better experiences in healthcare. So that is sort of the linkage of the three.
Yes, indeed. People are support Dr. Eugene Manley because if you support him for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to come. So, Dr. Eugene, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Monica people, see you soon.